Howdy everyone, this is Trisha and welcome to my channel. So today is just a little vlog to celebrate the New Year's Eve. This is New Year's Eve of 2021 and tomorrow will be obviously 2022. So we're going to be celebrating here in our home. We're just going to have a little barbecue. Our son Nathan and his girlfriend Maria will be joining us. So it's basically what we did last year. We just ate here at home, had a little bit of fireworks, and just enjoyed the evening and went to bed. So that's what we're going to do. But I also had a little bit of a craving, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and make a little video of it. I'm going to be making a pozole. It's not going to be a traditional recipe, so all you pozole police, please calm yourselves down and just enjoy what I've got to offer. Everybody has their own way of making this. There is a very traditional way of making it, from everything from, you know, making it from scratch, every little thing, but I'm not going to do that. I've got some things here that are just a quickies. Like I've got canned hominy, for example. So if you're wondering what pozole is, it is hominy. So we're going to be using a white hominy, and I'm going to be using pork on my pozole. This is a ribeye, a pork ribeye roast. It's a boneless roast here. You can use that, or like a shoulder, or even a pork butt if you want. You could use a beef shanks would be great in here, or you could do it with chicken. Now I'm going to be making a red pozole. So I'm going to be using these dried chiles. Now you could go for a green one, which would be using like those green little tomatoes or tomatillos. You could use bell pepper. You could use just some sweet type of peppers. Even poblano pepper would be delicious. So instead of the things that I'm going to be using, you can substitute that. But you would use onion and garlic and things like that. But anyway, I'm going to start off with some of this chile. And this is called a pasilla chile. Right here it says pasilla. And I'm going to use a couple of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off the stems here. And what I want to do is the little seeds that are in there, shake it out. Like that. You can hear it sounds like a little rattlesnake, you know, with all the little chiles. If they're not popping out, you can certainly, you know, slice it open, and that helps to remove a lot of that. You could also even remove these little veins that are inside of there. That has most of the heat of the pepper. So if you don't want that, by all means remove it. Now I'm removing it because I don't want to be biting into the little seeds, because I don't mind the heat. But I'm going to go ahead and do this other one the same way. And remove this little vein, which is holding a lot of them little seeds on there. Trying not to make a mess. All right, and I'm going to throw these in some water. Now I put some water in a pot behind me, but I haven't turned it on. I am super hot. We went to go get some groceries, and I was sweating. Long lines, you know. It wasn't that bad, like waiting in line and anything, but when we stopped, you know, moving and grabbing everything we wanted to grab, I could feel the perspiration. My husband says, "I don't see anything," but I could feel it. But anyway, let me go ahead and, I feel like I'm going to need another one. I'm going to grab one more. I keep saying I'm not going to make very much, but you know, it always turns out to be much. Okay. Remove that out of there. And I'm going to throw these in the water. And I feel like I put too much water now that I'm thinking, because I'm only doing these 3 chiles. So let me think about that. Okay, what I filled up is, I filled up this little container. This is maybe, this could be 4 cups in here, I think. And I filled up twice, so that's 8 cups. And I feel like that's too much. So I'm going to go ahead and empty out a little bit out of my pockets. I feel like I said, it's too much. I'll be right back. All right, so I actually poured out about half of that water. So I've got about 4 cups in a, you know, in a pot here, a little stew pot or whatever you want to use to boil the water. And we're going to throw these chiles in there. Now you could boil the water, put it in a little bowl, and then put your chiles and let them soak in there for however amount of time you want. But I'm just going to go ahead and throw them in the water. I'm going to see what other kind of chiles I have in my little arsenal here. Oh, here's some chipotle. I have plenty of bay leaves, and I just bought some more. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to grab a couple of those. I don't think there's, yeah, crack them open, get some of those. They almost look like dates. Do you like dates? I love dates, you guys. Love those yummy dates, but they have, you know, they have a lot of sugar. They have a lot of their own. It's natural sugar, so, you know, it's not that bad, but still, you know, you gotta be careful. This one won't let me pop it open. Well, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it in there like that. All right, so I'm gonna throw all of these, the 3 pasillas and the 2 of my chipotle, but you could use like Anaheim chile or something else like chile ancho, which is a dried, I think it's a dried poblano is really what it is, but you can use any kind of chilies. So I'm gonna put them in the water. We're gonna let that boil so that we can get them to soften, and then of course some of that flavor from the chile will get into the water. So we're gonna use a little bit of that water. Now I have another pan, a little skillet here. I'm gonna add a little bit of oil to that, and I'm actually gonna put these tomatoes. They look like they're about to give up. I'm gonna use them, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put them in the pan, and we're gonna, you know, char them. I've got an onion that I'm gonna do the same thing too, but I'm only gonna do half of this onion. If I was doing a really big pot or something, and of course this could turn out to be a big pot anyway, I would use a whole onion. These are not very big onions either, so I'll go ahead and use half an onion. We're gonna char a little bit of that as well. As a matter of fact, I am going, let me put this away. Don't need that anymore. And I don't think this will fit in there, but I'll just put it to the side. Okay, move that out of the way. A little trash here. And I'm gonna separate this a little bit, yeah, like that, so I can char all the little bits. I don't want to burn them, I just want to char them a little bit just to get that flavor, that smoky flavor. And I also want to do that with some garlic. So here I've got some garlic cloves, and I love garlic. So that all just depends on how much you want to do. But I mean, a small little, you know, amount that I'm making, probably 2 cloves is good enough. So I'm going to do those 2 cloves. And just put that off. There's a clove right there. Ooh, is that a hair? That is a hair. My goodness. Okay. Another bit here. There we go. Okay, this wasn't as quick and easy as that other one. Okay, so these guys are going to get into the oil. We're going to char them a little bit. And I'm going to have that kind of like a low, maybe medium kind of a fire. But first I'm going to get my pan hot. So I'm going to get it up high, get some oil in there, and then I'll turn it down and put those items in there. So I'll be back. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put the tomatoes, onions, and the garlic into this pan with some oil. There we go. If I wanted to make this spicy, I could throw in a serrano pepper or jalapeno in there. Okay, so we're gonna let that get nice. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've lowered the heat also, and I'm gonna cover my cutting board with a little. These are from the Dollar Tree, these little cutting things, but I need to get new ones because I've used them so much that I'm now cutting through them. You can see that right there. Okay, so I'm going to take my fork, get all these items out of the way here. Actually, put this garlic away over here. All right, so we're going to cut this. You could put this in your Instapot and just cook it for however amount of time you think is good enough for you, where it's nice and soft and it just kind of falls apart. And then just make everything else in a pot, or add the rest of the ingredients into the Instapot as well. You could just do it that way, or like a slow cooker. But I like to do things this way. I like to make sure my tomatoes and the onions, everything's all like made separately. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, get my fork here. These right there. And I'm going to cut them into chunks. It's almost like a nice pork chop. Look at that. Nice. And this is going to cook for about 3 hours, you guys. So that's why I'm saying you could do it in an Instapot or something else that could be a little bit faster. And I do remove a little bit of fat there. Now, if you're going to do this with chicken, I would suggest using, chicken on bone, so you get all that flavor from the bone, even the skin. And then you could just, fish those out and remove the chicken from the bone and, discard the bones and the skin if you want. So I cut them into chunks like this. And this is a lot, and I think it's a little bit too much. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and pack some of this put a little freezer bag, and that way they'll be ready for another batch of something else, and then the rest of it I'm going to use it for my pozole. All right, I've gone ahead and I put up the heat up a little bit on my onions and tomatoes because I want them to kind of hurry up and get nice. Anyway, I'm going to put some of this pork already cut up into chunks. It'll be ready. Maybe I can make some pulled pork sandwiches with this. This particular roast that I got here was almost 3 pounds. So in case you're curious how I'm using it, I said I'm going to do about half of it. Okay, one more in here. Yeah, I'll use the half, so about 1.5 pounds of pork if you're just going to make a small amount, which I almost feel like it's going to turn into a big amount anyway. You could combine a pork and maybe some beef shanks in there. Oh, that would be absolutely delicious. I need to get rid of this. All right, so what I'm going to do with this before I decide that I'm going to start cooking it in any kind of water or anything, I am going to sear them in some oil again on my pan. So as soon as my tomatoes and my onions, all of this is done and ready, I can go ahead and pull them out and put them in a little dish, put them aside, a little bowl, whatever you want to put them in. Oh, everything smells so good. And I do want to warn you, this over here, even just the steam from it, you know, to make you cough. And if you put chiles in there, especially if you're going to, you know, char the chiles, that can make you cough, like jalapenos, things like that. You know, the oils will get released into the air and, you know, choke you up a little bit. Just a little warning. Maybe you want to make sure you're ventilated really well. All right, so this has been about 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more that my chiles have been boiling in here. So that's good enough. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Now, you don't want to throw the water out. You're going to use some of that water, so just save it. But we're going to put these in the blender, the chiles, and we're going to put all this here also in the blender to make a really nice sauce, a nice red sauce for our, what did I say I'm making? For our pozole, okay? Again, pozole is hominy. All right. All right, so I'm going to add some salt and pepper to the meat. You could, of course, season it after, but I like to sear it with some seasoning on it. I feel like that way the meat absorbs some of that seasoning. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've done enough to this. The tomato, the skin is pretty much coming off. Now it's up to you. Let this cool off, and if you want to remove the skin, or just go ahead and use that. My onions have a nice little char on them. They're not burnt, and my garlic as well. So I'm pulling all that out of the pan, just setting them aside. And I'm going to take my pieces of pork, and I'm going to put them in the same pan, but I'm going to add a little bit of oil in there because whatever oil was in there got absorbed by the tomatoes and onions. And I'm just using avocado oil. Of course, you can use vegetable oil, lard if you want. Just a little bit, keeping the temperature pretty much the same. So let's get these guys. And I'm putting the seasoned side down, and then I'll season the other side. All right, so I seasoned it with salt and pepper to my liking. I'm going to go ahead and put some items away. I'm going to let that cook for a couple of minutes on one side and then turn them over and do the other side. It's pork, so it cooks pretty fast, so we don't want to necessarily cook it. We just want to sear the outside, all right? All right, so I've got the chilies out of the water and into my blender pitcher here. And I'm going to go ahead and add the tomatoes and the onion. I'm trying to get all that flavor that's on the plate. There we go. And then I'm using a little bit of the water that I boiled the chiles in. Pour that in there. And I might need a little bit more, depends. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the blender. A little bit of salt. Okay, put it in the blender, blend it up, make it nice and smooth. Alright, so this is all blended, all nice, the way that I like it. And I'm going to go ahead and now pass it through a sieve just to catch any bits that didn't get blended in there. You don't want the little skins and things like that, you know. It's not nice, you know, getting that in your mouth and maybe getting it stuck at the roof of your mouth. So we're going to get that out, and maybe it's some little seeds that maybe didn't, you know, break up, that may have been caught in there. So we're going to put it here, and I'm going to use the remainder of the water that was in the pot, because again, I didn't have that much water. It was only about 4 cups. So I'm going to use that to sort of like basically rinse this. Yeah. And get as much of that flavor as I can out of there. Pour that in there. Why is it so necessary for me to have to do it this way? I don't know. I'm just doing it. Okay, so there. So now we're just going to let that sift through. Stir it a little bit, kind of help it. And we're going to have a really nice chili broth to make our pozole. And of course, if you feel like you made too much of this and you don't want to add the whole thing, you'll save it for another recipe. You could use this to even pour over some enchiladas. You want a little sauce for your enchiladas. Now it almost seems kind of a waste to throw away, what's left in the sieve here. But I mean, if you want to use it, you don't want to strain it, you don't have to. It's up to you. I just have a little bit fall in there, but that's okay. So look, this is what you get left with. It's kind of like this paste. So I want to get as much of that out of there. Just rinse it off a little bit. Help some of that go down. Okay, we're going to go ahead and say that's good enough. So now I have this caldo rojo, this red soup. Let me mix that in there. Can you see it? Look at that. Okay, we're going to use that for our pozole now. All right, so let's get our pot ready. All right, so this big pot that I did my chiles, I'm not even rinsing it out or anything. I'm just going to use it as it is. I had poured out all the liquid in there, so now we have to add some liquid in there, and I want some of my liquid to be chicken broth because I feel it's going to give it a lot of flavor. Now, I did buy the one with no salt. No, I did buy the one with no salt, so this already has salt in it, so I'm not going to add any salt. What I'm going to do is just taste it as it's cooking and just decide if I need to add salt later. Okay, so this is 48 ounces of liquid, and I poured about half of it out in there because I am going to use some of this salsa. So now into that, we're going to add our seared pork bits. And I want all that fat to go in there, so I'm just going to pour it like that. All right, so you have to wash that really good. Okay, so now I'm going to add some of the salsa roja as well to it. And I'm going to take a bay leaf. Actually, I already have some already open over here. I'm going to add a nice big one. There's a nice big one right here. Yeah, it still smells good. Okay, so I want to put one of these. I actually, just for the heck of it, I'm going to add a little extra. Because they're a little bit older, and some of the aroma is not as strong. Okay, so I'm going to use that and a little bit of the salsa roja in there. I'm going to use about half of what I just made, okay? And I believe what I have in here is a little bit more than 4 cups because I did use 4 cups of water, but I think everything came liquefied and everything. It made a little bit more. So my pitcher, let's see what it says. Okay. I had about 24 ounces in here. So that's about 4 cups. Okay, a little bit more because of, the chiles and the tomatoes and the onions that were in there. There was a little bit more. Maybe there was 30, no, I don't know, there was 32. Was there 32 ounces? Do you all remember? It was about right here. Just, we'll just go back and look at the video at the beginning. So it was more like 32, so it was about right here of liquid. So I'm using about half of that right now, which is about 16 ounces. It's all in here. I'm going to go ahead and cover this up, and I'm just going to slow cook it. So I'm going to put it in, I have it at high right now just to get the pot hot again, but I'm going to go ahead and lower the temperature to low to medium, okay? And I'm going to throw some cilantro in there just to start flavoring it right now, but I'm going to save some of this for later as well. So I'm just gonna get a big hunk. Excuse me. I do need to rinse this off though. Okay, so I got a little chunk of cilantro like this. I said it was a big, but it's not that big. It's just a little bit of cilantro. I'm gonna throw it in there. You could add some extra onion in there if you want. I'm gonna cover this up. I think I said 2 hours. I'm gonna cook it for about an hour, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add the hominy, and I'm gonna drain all the liquid from it and then put it in there and probably cook it for another hour, 2 hours. It just all depends on how soft I want my meat to be. If you want it to just fall apart, then cook it for the longest time as possible. A little bit of cilantro, gone rogue, toss it in there. All right, so we'll be back in about an hour or two. We'll see. All right, you guys, so I've done a little bit of a cleanup here. I actually haven't been keeping track of the time, but I have lowered the heat to a low heat, like a simmer. I just want to have it simmering. I think I had said low to medium, but that was only at the beginning to get it hot. So now once we have that, we've lowered the temp. And I'm also keeping my chicken broth and my red sauce, you know, my chile sauce. That's my phone. Anyway, so I'm keeping these on the side because I also want to keep an eye on it. We don't want it to, you know, the liquid to evaporate. So we want to make sure we have some liquid in there. So I'm going to have these, probably going to end up using these. I might have to add a little bit of water. Another thing that I forgot to mention to add is some dry Mexican oregano. Forgot to add that. So I'm going to get some now and just sprinkle a little bit. Now, oregano can be a very strong herb to add into anything, so you don't want to add too much. Just a little pinch. And since I'm not making like a big giant pot of this, I don't want a lot. So just a little pinch. Oh, it smells so good. And then of course, if you feel like you need a little bit extra, a little bit more pinch, you can go ahead and add that after you've been cooking it, and if you want more of that scent from it or the flavor from it. But try not to overdo it. Okay. So we're going to let it simmer. I'm just going according to what I think the time has gone by. I think it's been about 20 minutes at the most. All right, everyone, it's been almost an hour, and I took out a chunk of the pork just because I wanted to see how easily it would pull apart. It's not quite where I want it, and of course it hasn't cooked as long as I initially said I wanted to cook it for. It is cooked, but I want it to be, excuse me, I want it to fall apart. So I'm going to go ahead and put these pieces back in there. I just grabbed them with my thong, or tong, not my thong, my tongs and my fork, and you saw I just grabbed a little piece with my fingers. My hands are clean. But I can throw these back in there. And I'm going to go ahead and add this large can of hominy. This is a 30 ounce, so it's a pound and 14 ounces of this hominy. And it's this white, large corn kernels, as you can see that. Some maize. So I'm going to add that in there. And of course I'm going to add the chicken broth and my red sauce. And I'm probably going to season it a little bit more. I need to taste the broth right now and see how that tastes. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. Oh my gosh. The sauce is really good, you guys, but it's going to need a little more seasoning because I am going to add this hominy in there. So add that whole can in there. I actually have another. I bought this. Excuse me, the little chili kind of got at my throat there. But I actually bought this can and then another smaller can. I didn't want to buy that big giant can. Normally you buy a big giant can to make a pozole, like a big batch. But I knew I wasn't going to make that much. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and add that other little can. And I'm going to add the rest of this chicken broth. Now, my cat is meowing at me. He wants something. It's not dinner time for them, but it is a little snack time, so I'll give them something. All right, and I'm going to add the rest of my sauce here. It smells delicious, but you know, it'll scratch your throat. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of water just to get that out of there, all that flavor, and pour that in there. Okay, so basically I'm rinsing out the cup with a little bit of extra water, but I want to lose that, so I'm going to throw that back in there. And like I said, I'm going to open up another little can. It's like a 15 ounce, maybe a little can of more hominy. Add that in there. This is trash. Okay, so I'm saving this onion here, the other half, because I'm actually going to chop it up because I want to top my pozole with stuff like that. Now, if you've had menudo, you've probably had it with, you know, chopped onions, some cilantro, some lime, maybe some radishes, or even some cabbage or lettuce. So that's what I want to put on mine. I have some shredded lettuce, and I want to slice up some little radishes, chop up the onion and some cilantro. That's what I'm going to top it with, and of course some lime. But that'll be at the end when I'm ready to serve it. I don't know if I shared the news, but I'm going to go ahead and share that with you today. Some of you are keeping up with my father. My father has been in the hospital, in and out. He's had some surgeries, and then he had been home, and then ended up in the hospital again with pneumonia. And but he is now home. My mom called me earlier today to let me know that he was home now with her. So I'm very happy about that. So, but he is going to have to continue 21 days of some treatment. I didn't get it all straight from her what it is. I do know that he was going to have to go for some treatments where he was going to do some walking and etc. But he still got a lot of the wires or tubes in his arm. She said, you know, for blood, you know, checking of his blood, or in case he has to have blood transfusion suddenly, because he's, you know, he's also anemic, and so they're keeping that on there for a little bit. But he got to come home, so he's home with my mom for the New Year's. My mom can get a little bit of rest, and I've told her, of course, the initial first visit that he'll have, she'll go with him, make sure all the paperwork gets done after that. But after that, he'll just be taken to his appointment. So I told her that I would do that, so that she didn't have to do that, because it's going to be 21 days, and that would be again her driving back and forth and possibly waiting around for him. So I told her I'll go ahead and do that for her. She's saying, oh, we can take turns or whatever, and I said, however you want to do it, Mom. But I'm just really happy. Thank you all for your continued prayers and your thoughts on my dad. Okay, so now I'm going to add that other little can, cover that up. I'm going to bring it up a little bit because the liquids that I just added, including the hominy, that's all cold. So I'm going to bring up the temperature a little bit and get it hot again and get it rolling again. And then I'll turn it down to a low. And hopefully in an hour, maybe 2 hours, I don't know. We'll see, because it's not a lot. So maybe in an hour and it'll all be ready, because by the way the pork was already feeling to me, I feel like another hour. And then we can have some, of course, well, maybe not you right now, but I can. But I'll be enjoying it for you. Okay, so I'll be back. All right, so it's been cooking now for 2 hours, and let's take a look at this. First of all, it smells delicious. There we can see here, this pork just comes right off. It's super hot, so I can barely grab it, but it was falling apart just with a little bit of a pull, so that's nice. So I'm gonna actually cook it a little bit more. It smells so good. These bay leaves are gonna come out. We're not gonna serve them. We don't want to serve them to someone. They're not that great to chew into, so we'll take those out. And I think I had another one in there. There's 2 of them in there. But then I would like for this to completely just, well, there it is, it's falling apart. But I want it to fall apart a little bit easier, you know, than what it's doing right now. And I just want it in like little pieces in my pozole. But that's looking really good. So I'm gonna give it a little bit more time, maybe not a whole hour, because this is smelling so good. I actually want to get into it. And well, you know, I want to finish the video before I go off and have some, you know, enjoyment with my family. All right, so I'll be back. All right, everyone, I'm gonna turn this off. This has been cooking for almost 3 hours. It's been about another 45 minutes or so, but it is done. It smells delicious. I've given it a taste. It is quite spicy, but I think it's because I use those chipotle peppers. You could always leave those out, but this is what it looks like. So I'm gonna go ahead and serve myself. I'm just gonna break up the little pork chunks just a little bit more. I've been doing it with my spoon like that and just breaking them apart and getting little smaller pieces like that. And I think that is wonderful, but let's go ahead and break it up a little bit more. I'll serve it up so you can see what I put into my bowl when it's ready to, you know, serve it up to yourself or your guests. All right, so I've served myself a nice big bowl of my pozole. It smells delicious, as I said before. So I'm gonna top mine off with some onions. I'm also gonna top it off with some chopped or shredded lettuce. You could use some cabbage if you prefer that, or just leave that out. I love some radishes, so I'm going to add that. That adds a little crunch to my bowl. Some cilantro. And of course, I don't want to forget that I also want to add some lime. This seems to be what really brings everything to the very top, is actually adding some lime juice in there. So there we go, a beautiful bowl of pozole. And now we want to give it a taste. Guys, this is a very hearty soup. It has such a wonderful homemade scent to it. It's a kind of soup that if you've been out all day and it's been cold or rainy, or you're just tired or you're feeling sick and you come home and someone's been cooking and you walk in and you smell that home cooking that someone's been doing, and it just brings you home. That is how I feel with this little pozole, this little caldo, this soup. So I'm going to give myself a big old thumbs up, and I hope that you too will give me a big old thumbs up. Leave a kind comment down below. Let me know what you think of my recipe for today. I'm going to wish everyone a happy new year and lots of blessings for your health and your happiness. I hope that you were spending it with someone, and if you're alone, then just know that sometimes being alone isn't so bad, because you are the maker of your own plans. Your plans are yours, and there's no one to ruin them for you. Again, this is a soup that if you're going to have a big party, lots of people around, you want to make this. This is great after, some of their guests have been drinking, maybe even in the morning. Heat it up after that, you got that little bit of a buzz still going on and you're waking up and you're not feeling so good. This is that kind of soup that kind of helps, kill that little, what is that hangover that you might have. So again, Happy New Year, everyone. I wanted to say Merry Christmas, but it's just a Happy New Year. And as always, enjoy.